Welcome to Singing Demystified. I am Cornelius of Voice Studio East, and I am here today to talk about vowels and how they relate to vocal technique. Vowels can be categorized on the basis of two main parameters, these being frontness and openness. As a pretty good first approximation, vowel openness can be thought of as corresponding to how open your mouth is. And languages generally distinguish vowels on the basis of several gradations of openness. When it comes to vowel frontness, the distinctions are typically less fine-grained, giving rise to two main vowel families: front vowels and back vowels. Front vowels include, among others, e, and a. Back vowels include u, o, and o. They are named in reference to the tongue positions required to produce them. On the basis of these two parameters, it is possible to construct a systematic chart of vowels arranged according to their phonetic features. Here is a very typical example of such a chart. The strange symbols are how various vowel sounds are represented using the International Phonetic Alphabet. Here we see e, and a. And over here we see u, o, and o. In addition to these two main vowel families, there are also central vowels like and which are in between front and back vowels. The last three of these are known as schwas, with being the prototypical schwa. They are formed with a fairly uniform, relaxed vocal tract, and for this reason they are very commonly found in unstressed syllables in various languages. I will sometimes refer to the as an open schwa and the as a closed schwa. We also notice that most places in the chart feature two vowels side by side, with the left being an unrounded vowel and the right being a rounded vowel. Notice how the rounded front vowels sound remarkably similar to the central unrounded vowels u, For this reason, they are effectively interchangeable when singing and are commonly substituted in order to improve the acoustic efficiency of a given vocal coordination. We will return to this concept later, but for now we will simply rely on their interchangeability to simplify the vowel chart and boil it down to the bare essentials singers need. For our convenience, I have used Anglophone transcriptions wherever possible, but there are a couple of remarks that need to be made. Firstly, the vowel transcribed as AE is pronounced A as in cat. Secondly, the vowel transcribed as UH would most intuitively be read as A as in under, but its meaning here is closer to the open schwa from earlier, though you can make it resemble a regular A by rounding the lips a bit. Thirdly, O occurs in English only as part of the diphthong O, but my transcription only refers to the first part of this diphthong. Finally, the vowel O does not exist in the most common English accents, so I have instead based my transcription on French. When encountering this vowel in French words, many English speakers will pronounce it as the diphthong O, but the correct pronunciation is just O. Another thing to note is that I have omitted the vowel A from the chart. Had I included it, I would need to include both a front A central A, and a back A. And since I tend to transcribe them the same way, it seems rather superfluous. All the more so because, as far as vocal technique is concerned, they function more or less the same as the bottom row of the vowels I did include. More on that later. For now, let us explore what vowels essentially are and how we produce them. Vowels are formed by manipulating the resonances of the vocal tract. The vocal tract has a nearly limitless series of resonances, but only the lowest 5 or so are strong enough to actually matter. And among these, we are really mostly concerned with the first 2, since it is these that correspond to vowel openness and vowel frontness, respectively. The technical details of resonance are very complicated, and giving the full picture is beyond the scope of this video, but you can click the link in the description to watch an hour-long video on the topic. For our purposes today, though, we will have to make do with approximations. The first resonance associated with vowel openness is to a good approximation in inverse relation to the distance between the larynx and the jaw. This means we can raise the first resonance and thus open the vowel by raising the larynx or lowering the jaw. Or we can lower it and thus close the vowel by lowering the larynx or closing the jaw. For example, if you start with the vowel e and want to change it to an e, you can do so by closing the jaw. E. Or you can do it by lowering the larynx. Notice how lowering the larynx also made it less fronted, though, so we actually wound up with the close schwa ö rather than an e. To get to the e, we will need to bring the second resonance back up somehow. The second resonance, associated with vowel frontness, can be raised by elevating the tongue towards the palate. Conversely, it can be lowered by retracting the tongue, whether back and up, as in the close back vowels u and o, or back and down, as in the open back vowels o and a. This retracted tongue position functions directly to lower the second resonance, but it also effectively vacates the space beneath the hard palate. For this reason, you can also think of back vowels as being spacious vowels. If, for example, you have an e and you want to modify it to a schwa to make it more spacious, you can simply pull down the tongue. This does also lower the larynx, so you might expect the vowel to close a little, but in practice the lowered tongue makes up for it. Thus, by lowering the tongue, the vowel remains about as open as it was before, but becomes more spacious. And here we touch upon something that is highly relevant to vocal technique. Front vowels, with their elevated tongue and vertically constricted space in the oral cavity, turn out to have a certain quality of tightness that encourages stronger vocal fold closure and helps resist the outflow of air. This makes them very well suited for chest register, whereas back vowels, on the other hand, have a certain looseness that makes them unable to provide that crystalline cutting clarity that is a chief characteristic of a well-coordinated chest register. We can, however, emulate the sound of back vowels by using rounded front vowels. To be precise, we will have to round them quite a lot, since rounded front vowels ordinarily only resemble central vowels. But by protruding the lips and lowering the larynx a little, we can create some quite convincing fake back vowels that can readily be used with chest register. In practical terms, this simply means that we need to use the lips a lot when articulating in chest register, and move the tongue a lot less. As just mentioned, back vowels are too loose for chest register. This does, however, make them quite suitable for call register, for reasons we will get back to in a bit. Remembering that chest register relies on front vowels, but with the possibility of emulating or faking back vowels by rounding the lips, you might wonder whether we can do something similar in the opposite direction. Indeed, we can. By widening the mouth a lot and baring the upper teeth, we can make our back vowels resemble central vowels. And by narrowing the pharynx and raising the larynx a lot, we can even make them sound almost like front vowels, though they still have a characteristically spacious quality that makes them suitable for call register. We can actually rely on these fake front vowels to get into twanged call register, and thus make high-pitched belting easier for us. Just keep the wide mouth shape and relatively low tongue position that is characteristic of call register, and try to make the vowels as fronted as possible given those constraints. You could also apply it to a scale by starting with a front vowel for chest register at the bottom, switching to a central vowel in the middle, really a back vowel masquerading as a central vowel, and then making it fronted again at the top, but retaining the spacious shape. It should sound something like this. That's for chest register at the bottom, then in the middle to get into call register, and then a return to for the high notes to get into twanged call register. But why does call register work best with back vowels in the first place? It has to do with the fact that call register relies on resonance tuning much more than chest register does. If you are not familiar with the concept of resonance tuning, you can watch the aforementioned video on the topic of resonance in singing. But to make this video accessible for new viewers, we will briefly summarize the most important concepts. As mentioned earlier, we form vowels primarily by manipulating the first two resonances of the vocal tract, also known as formants. By matching these to overtones of the sung note, we can improve the acoustic efficiency of the whole coordination. Not only will this lead to a more efficient emission of sound, it will even improve the efficiency of the movement of the vocal folds themselves. In call register, such resonance tunings serve an especially important role because they contribute to resisting the outflow of air. But they would wind up providing too much resistance if combined with the natural tightness of the front vowels that are used in chest register. The most important resonance tuning for call register is yell timbre, which refers to tuning the first resonance of the vocal tract associated with vowel openness to the second harmonic or octave overtone of the sung note. It is what I used in the scale earlier. Here are a few examples of famous singers using this resonance tuning. So how do we actually accomplish this? Well, we could rely on a spectrogram and try to make the octave overtone as strong as possible. But to make the process easier, I have made this cheat sheet. On the left, you see the same vowels as earlier, arranged in the same layout. On the right, you can see which resonance tuning each vowel gravitates towards in a given pitch range. Normally, the term open timbre would include yell timbre as a special case, but in this chart, I use it to refer specifically to cases where the vowel is too open for yell timbre. In other words, where the first resonance is too high to be in range of the octave overtone. This makes it less suitable for belting in call register, but you can still use chest register or mixed voice. To the right of yell timbre, you will see close timbre. This is when the octave overtone rises above the first resonance, leading to a perceptible closing of the sound, also sometimes described as the voice turning over. Close timbre naturally lends itself to mixed voice, but if there is enough twang, it is possible to keep it in choral register, especially if you also use second formant third harmonic tuning, a topic we will return to later. Conversely, you can make yell timbre compatible with mixed voice by slurring the vowels very slightly, which will throw off the resonance tuning a little, weakening it to something more suitable for mixed voice. Likewise, you can slur front vowels to slightly centralize them, and thus remove the tightness that would otherwise take you out of mixed voice and into chest register. Finally, there's whoop timbre, which consists of tuning the first resonance to the sung note itself, as is sometimes heard when people cheer at a concert or sports match. Woo! It tends to be a bit too strong a resonance tuning for mixed voice, and is mostly associated with the head register of a classical soprano. Head register does not see much usage in contemporary music, but whoop timbre is still quite useful for closed vowels in falsetto, and even for choral register and chest register. It is only when we lose whoop timbre, when the sung pitch rises above the first resonance of the vocal tract, that we are really in trouble. This will tend to happen with closed vowels in the upper fourth octave, hence the need to open them up a little. It should be noted at this point that my vowel chart only reflects how vowels are typically perceived in contemporary music by male singers and in the modal register. While it is mainly the lowest two resonances that give identity to a vowel, higher resonances can still provide subtle cues that influence how the listener interprets a vowel. Not to mention that vowels are often heard relative to each other. Thus, in operatic tenor singing, for example, all the vowels will be darker than in a contemporary style, and therefore all the shifts of resonance will happen lower in pitch, though they will still occur in more or less the same places relative to each other. Conversely, if you are a female singer, or just if you have a very feminine sounding voice, you may need to shift the whole chart upwards in pitch. Particularly astute viewers might wonder why yell timbre and whoop timbre are shown to be more than an octave apart, why the difference between mid-vowels and close mid-vowels is shown to be so drastic, and why the formant frequencies implied by the displayed resonance tunings do not match the known formant frequencies as these vowels occur in speech. All of these conundra can, however, be solved by a single explanation. Vowels are heard partly relative to pitch, and tend to become brighter as we ascend in pitch. This is what stretches out the span between yell timbre and whoop timbre. It also explains why mid-vowels tend to be so open in singing. When the octave overtone rises above the first formant, we tend to hear the aforementioned closing of the vowel or turning over of the voice as a change from a mid-vowel to a close mid-vowel. As you ascend through the fourth octave, this ultimately winds up eliminating any distinction between mid-vowels and open vowels, for which reason it is a common practice, but not universal, in vocal pedagogy to depart from phonetics a little and lump mid-vowels together with open vowels, and conversely to lump close mid-vowels and close vowels together as well, leading to a binary classification of vowels as being either open or close. When discussing close timbre, I mentioned second formant third harmonic tuning, also known as F2H3 tuning for short. As the name suggests, it involves tuning the second resonance, associated with vowel frontness, to the third harmonic of the sung note, which is the octave and a fifth overtone. It is how most operatic tenors sing their high notes. But it is actually also used by contemporary singers nearing the top of their belting range. Both these examples are using twanged chord register, but second formant third harmonic tuning is also helpful for keeping your mixed voice highly efficient, so you don't have to use excessive amounts of breath support. I have made a cheat sheet for this, too. Since there is only one resonance tuning we are interested in, it is a pretty simple chart. You can theoretically use yell timbre and F2H3 tuning simultaneously, but in practice, the yell timbre is so overpowering that it somewhat overshadows the second formant and makes it hard to tune it precisely. Not to mention that the combination won't even give you that much of an improvement in efficiency compared to what you're already getting from the yell timbre by itself. Therefore, I have focused on close vowels while keeping them open enough to be favorable to mixed voice. There is a new vowel, however. For our previous purposes, it was enough to distinguish 3 degrees of vowel frontness, but since we are now using that vowel frontness for resonance tuning, a mere 3 categories do not give us enough fidelity. The YW transcription indicates the same vowel as the close schwa YH, but with a narrow mouth shape, whereas the YH in this chart has a wide mouth shape. This gives us 4 gradations of vowel frontness, which is sufficient for our purposes. You can use this cheat sheet when planning what vowel modifications to make to a song or exercise to achieve second formant third harmonic tuning. Take, for example, my usual mixed voice exercise on go, which consists of an arpeggio. If I do it from C4 to C5, for example, then I know that I will need a narrow at the G4 and a wide at the C5, like this. Go, 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 go. It is generally only necessary to modify back and central vowels in this manner, and central vowels only at the top where they need to become fronted. This is because front vowels already have enough inherent tightness, so to speak, to avoid cracking into falsetto, even if no particular resonance tuning is being used, provided, of course, that there is enough twang. You can thus think of this cheat sheet as showing the minimum amount of vowel frontness required to maintain an efficient coordination and avoid cracking into falsetto. Speaking of falsetto, there are some observations we need to make about how vowels impact falsetto. While any vowel can be used in falsetto without much trouble, they cannot all be used equally well with the same style of falsetto. For example, if you want a soft, breathy falsetto, you should use front vowels, like in chest register, as their inherent tightness contributes to the turbulent airflow we hear as breathiness, without needing as much actual airflow as you'd need to get a similarly breathy sound with back vowels. Conversely, if you want a clear sound, you should use back vowels, like in call register, and create fake front vowels by widening the mouth, baring the upper teeth, and so on. As you ascend into the upper 4th octave in falsetto, the first cheat sheet becomes somewhat inaccurate. This is because a falsetto often has enough breathiness or noise for mid-vowels to be clearly discernible even without being in yell timbre. Conversely, if you do take yell timbre above A4, it will result in a belty sound that departs from what people typically associate with falsetto. While this can be used as a very effective stepping stone to learning pharyngeal voice, it is in most cases more desirable to go into closed timbre and rely on second formant third harmonic tuning for most vowels other than E and U. You can use a second cheat sheet for this, but if your falsetto is very bright, like the Celtic style falsetto I often teach, you may need to shift the transition points upwards by a semitone or two. So, to summarize what we have learned in this video, vowels can be classified on the basis of openness and frontness, corresponding to the first and second resonances respectively. Front vowels naturally lend themselves to chest register, back vowels naturally lend themselves to call register, and closed vowels naturally lend themselves to mixed voice, though closed front vowels like E and E may need to be slurred slightly. You can also create fake back vowels by rounding and protruding the lips, and you can create fake front vowels by widening the mouth and baring your upper teeth, thus expanding your range of options when it comes to register vowel combinations. Different vowels have different ranges in which they are in yell timbre, whoop timbre, and so on, and you can use the first cheat sheet linked in the description to see which vowels you will need for a given resonance tuning at a given pitch. Call register lends itself most easily to yell timbre, and mixed voice lends itself most easily to closed timbre, but twanged call register can also fairly easily be made to work in closed timbre if you combine it with second formant third harmonic tuning, which you can practice by using the second cheat sheet, also linked in the description. Breathy sounds are most easily produced with front vowels, since their natural tightness will readily produce the turbulence we hear as breathiness, without needing nearly as much airflow as you'd need to produce a similarly breathy sounding back vowel. Conversely, if you want your falsetto rich and clear, back vowels are going to be helpful. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. If you have any questions, whether about vowels or anything else, be sure to leave a comment down below. If you wish to get in touch, you can click the link in the description to join my Discord server, or visit my website at voicestudioeast.com, where you can also book lessons. Stay tuned, remember to like and subscribe for more content, and as always, thanks for watching.